Hi you guys, welcome back to Mayfield Ranch. My name's Katie and today I'm going to take you on a tour of the garden. I'm going to show you what's growing out here and what's changed since last week. So come on along. Okay, so we'll start off the garden tour here like I typically do. They're definitely getting a little bit bigger. We're not noticing a lot of peppers here on bell peppers yet, but there's this one. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing out here that's looking a little different than in weeks past are the peppers. So the peppers are getting a little bit bigger. Let me show you this one. So this one here, we've got some peppers on it. So that's looking pretty good. And I'll also show you the harvest here at the end. So we'll show you what we get. So more peppers, and then we move into some hot peppers, which are getting big. They're getting quite a bit bigger. So our peppers are getting quite a bit bigger. So let me share with you a little disappointment that I'm having out here in my garden. So see these guys? I mean, they look great. There's nothing wrong with them. Except they were supposed to be orange habanero plants. Now, I was really excited to grow a bunch of orange habanero plants. And these are not orange habanero, unfortunately. So I planted just a ton of seeds. I wanted to get a lot of orange habaneros this year so I can make habanero jelly. It was like a favorite last year with the family. And I'm a little saddened to see that my orange habanero, what I believe to be orange habanero plants, are not. Now we tasted one of these peppers. I don't quite know what it is. Super mild pepper. It's a pepper, we're growing something. But sadly, I don't think I have any orange habaneros out here. Now I didn't save these seeds, I purchased them. So I guess it was probably just a mistake, but this is what we're gonna end up with this year. And then of course, our volunteer squash plant, he's doing really well, just kind of growing over there. I'll show you the other side. There's plenty of fruit set on it. So as we move around, there's our sugar rush peach. Okay, so right here, you guys, this is our sugar rush peach and it's looking spectacular. It's starting to get peppers, so let me show you what that's looking like. Now that's an Anaheim pepper. We harvested a little bit of this together before. So you saw that last week. That's that guy. This is just the backside of that volunteer squash. And then we're gonna move into okra. Now this squash, the spaghetti squash here is starting to spread out. And initially I was trying to keep it from doing that and just grow it vertically up this trellis. I might come back and just string that up too. We'll see. And then we've got okra, and I have been harvesting some okra. So I'm gonna do a harvest today and I'll show you what we get. We're not getting a lot here in the garden, but we're starting to. All right, and here's our tomatoes. So I've started kind of just weaving them through that cattle panel so they'll grow up in an arch. The ones on the back there are beefsteak. In the front, I can't remember what these guys are. And then over here, there's some cherry tomatoes.
Hey guys. Can't wait to get some of these tomatoes, make some fresh salsa.
All right, so here's the rest of those tomatoes. So in the back there, like I said, over here we have beefsteak, and then over here in the back are the cherry tomatoes. And then more tomatoes in the front. Let me show you this other side. We've got one ground cherry plant out here, and it's starting to get really big. It's kind of growing. And then a basil. This basil is just for the pollinators. We're not picking it. Now, one thing about these cherry tomatoes, they look different than any of the cherry tomatoes I've grown in the past. They're very dainty. I'm used to having cherry tomato plants that are just very aggressive. They're usually pretty wild and they're growing all the way up this cattle panel trellis, like this arch. I've had them creep onto the other side, like they grow so much. And we'll see how these do throughout the season, but so far they're slow growing. The plants themselves look very dainty. They're just rainbow cherry tomatoes. I'll give you a quick look here at the inside. So this is just the other side where I've been weaving those tomatoes through that cattle panel. And then over here, we've got a couple tomatoes that should just grow up some twine. There's our volunteer spaghetti squash. Let me show you. It's got plenty of fruit set here. So It looks like it's producing a fair amount, and it should just keep on going for us. It's got some pretty flowers. And then on the right side here, we've got a cantaloupe that seems to be doing pretty well. So we're just trying to weave that up there through the cattle panel. And then one little cherry tomato. Let me give you a close-up view. So another little cherry tomato on this side. And again, you could see it's just so dainty. I guess it's doing okay. It's just really tiny. And then this is just a cutting I put in the ground. It's doing okay. It's another cherry tomato. Okay guys, this is our Malabar spinach and our cucumbers, and it's just getting overrun with weeds. We kept the weeds out of it for a while, and then it just kind of took over. So I don't know, we'll see what we get out of here, but it is what it is at this point. This side, we've got one cherry tomato growing here, kind of just weaved through this cattle panel. It's just in the very edge of this bed. Mostly what we have here is Delicata Squash. So we've got Delicata Squash growing here. It's starting to kind of sprawl out, but it should just grow up that trellis. There are a couple volunteers in here that I think are cantaloupe, and we let those go. So we'll see how they all produce together.
Ground garden is a mess, and we need to definitely try something different next year.
It's not a total loss because at least Lola and Emma appreciate the weeds that we're successfully growing out here.
We got dinner tonight.
Hey you guys, so like I've been showing you, our ground garden just has a lot of weeds. Gary's working so hard on it. But our squash that's growing out here, it seems to be doing okay. And last year we had kind of a similar problem, and we did produce a lot of squash. So we're gonna just go with it.
Got another squash. It's not one. Okay, here we go. All right. We got some yellow squashies now.
Okay, you guys, here are our green beans, and they are doing really well. They're getting bigger and starting to grow up that trellis. So hopefully pretty soon we'll have rattlesnake green beans. Can't wait. Okay, we'll just show you this side. Not much going on here. A little bit of sage, the same eggplant that's doing nothing. Some basil that's pretty happy here, and a couple tomatoes Gary stuck out here that were just extra in our greenhouse.
So I'm just gonna harvest some of these peppers out here in the back animal garden before I show you the next parts of our garden. And once I'm all done with the garden tour, I'm gonna show you what we harvested this week.
Hey guys, so I'm out here with the raised containers that I have out here in another part of our garden, so let me show you what's going on there. Okay, so we've got tomatoes that I had staked up. So I'm going to show you one of these is just not doing well. So we've got several that are doing really well, but we've got this one here that's looking pretty sad. Not sure what's going on or why it's struggling, and the rest of the tomatoes are doing fantastic, but it happens. So we'll probably take that one out. And then we've got some tomatoes over there that are getting red that are ready to harvest, so I'll pull those off. So here we still have that volunteer tomato that's growing down in there. As you can see, there's still no dirt in there. It's kind of hard to see, it's so dark, but I'm just letting it grow. Maybe it's a cherry tomato and we'll end up getting something off of it. Then one more tomato here, some onions. I moved this little planter over here, there's some dirt in it. I planted some lemon cucumber seeds in here, so we'll see if that produces, but I'll keep it watered and we'll see if we can get that to sprout. Hopefully we can. So you guys, one more thing over here that I haven't shown you guys yet is I planted some sweet potatoes. So let me tell you about it. I ordered some sweet potato slips from Gurney's thinking, oh, you know, I need more plants for sure. I definitely don't have enough. So they get here and gosh, I couldn't think of where I was gonna put them. I actually ordered them without having a spot in mind for them, which is super smart, right? Spend money on some live plants. They get here and I didn't know what I was gonna do. So I let them sit for a couple days before I planted them. I was busy, they arrived on a weekday. I wasn't sure they were gonna make it, so I didn't show you when I planted them, but let me show you what they look like. They looked pretty sad and now they're looking good. And just to be clear, not through any fault of Gurney's. They looked great when they got here. I let them sit for a couple days before I planted them, but let me show you what they're looking like now. They look pretty good. Okay, so there's our big tomato that we staked up, and here are those sweet potatoes. So they're looking pretty good. The first couple of days they didn't, and this has been out here probably about a little over a week, maybe a week and a half. And they're looking good. They're starting to take off. So I've just been keeping them watered. They looked so sad when I put them in the ground. Now I'm hoping they'll do okay in this raised bed here. I do have some red onions planted in there, and then there's a little sun sugar tomato and some more onions. So I'm thinking that the onions I'll be able to take out pretty soon, and then the sweet potatoes can just take over this bed. It's a little experiment. We'll just see how it goes. Okay guys, here is our strawberries. Nothing really happened in there. We've got a few strawberry beds. I thought I would just show you one, but no strawberries so far this year. Here's our little growing in pots experiment. So these two on the end are bell peppers. We do have some bell peppers on them, but I'm getting some brown spots. So they're not doing fantastic. But historically, I haven't been really successful growing bell peppers. There's a super hot pepper. That one looks pretty happy. A couple more peppers right there. Those are looking good. Tomato that I need to come back and stake up a little bit more because it's growing pretty well. More tomatoes. Let me back up so you can kind of see the whole thing. More tomatoes. We've got a Buena Mulata pepper right here, and it's just getting loaded with those purple peppers. So that's great. So here is our overwintered Anaheim pepper. And I actually harvested this with you guys last week, and it still has more peppers on it. They're turning red. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull even more of these off today and get those collected. And then a couple more plants in pots, some tomatoes over here. All of these are looking pretty good with the exception of one. So this one's looking good. Over here, these guys seem to be doing okay. But this one over here in the corner is not looking so good. So we might take that out and switch it out with something else. Let me show you our little planter over here. This is this one. We've got this Anaheim pepper in the front. It's getting bigger. One eggplant back there, another eggplant back there, green onions in the front, a squash plant. We did get a couple squash off this. I took them off earlier last week. One beefsteak tomato in the front, and then right here we just have one Roma tomato. It's starting to get a little bit of yellowing, so we'll see how healthy this is going to stay. And then I've got some seeds planted over here, but these are not fully planted yet. All right, so now we're in our backyard garden. We'll show you what's going on here. Squash is getting so big, and it's just setting a bunch of fruit. So there's Delicata Squash there. That's two squash plants that you see. And this one here is a butternut squash. It's growing up over that arch. It's trailing down here onto the ground, which is totally fine. So let me take you around the other side and show you what that looks like. So here's the other side. You can see that Delicata squash back there. And it's just trailing over here too, which is totally fine also. Got more fruit set in there, so we'll be able to harvest some of that. We've got our peppers. So I took out, if you guys remember from a couple weeks ago, I pulled out that really big basil plant that was here because I wanted my peppers to get a little more sun. So I did plant my peppers very close together, as it turns out. When they were little, it looked like there was plenty of room, but they seem to be very healthy and happy. So hopefully we'll end up just getting a huge harvest. And there's that butternut squash from this angle, just growing up that trellis. Over here you can see our Armenian cucumber, then a bunch of beefsteak tomatoes. And in this pepper bed, I thought I would show you, if I could kind of move these out of the way and show you. We've got this volunteer eggplant that's coming through. Now generally, I don't love to have a lot of eggplant, and I didn't want eggplant in this bed, but since none of our other eggplant is doing well this year, I'm gonna let that go and just see if we can get a few eggplant out of it. Okay, so here's a closer look at our Armenian cucumber. Now this is two plants, you guys, that is in here, just so you kind of have an idea how big they get. I had originally planned to put the two on that side and just grow up that trellis, but they spread out, they made their own decisions, and now we have harvested, but here's one I need to pull off today. Look how big this guy is. So there's a few more in there we need to get. Our little butternut squash, it's making little baby squash. It's working. These bees are out here just working on it. And these leaves are so pretty. If you guys have never grown this, the leaves are huge and they're just gorgeous. They're so pretty. they make this trellis just look really beautiful out in the garden. Here's just another angle here of that Armenian cucumber on this side. Flowers all over it, and it's just growing up this trellis. Initially, this Armenian cucumber, it did need a little help winding its way through the trellis. I had to help it out. Whereas like that butternut squash didn't need any help at all. It just made its own decisions and climbed right up. This guy needed a little more help, but once I got it started, it's pretty much doing it on its own. So it's working great. So we've got these ground cherries here. I planted 3 of them. They look like they're doing okay. I probably planted them in a little bit of a crowded spot. Got beefsteak tomatoes. I have a couple of poblano peppers right here in the center, and then beefsteaks. Now we're noticing a couple of our plants are really starting to get yellow. I'm not sure why. Like that one's super healthy, this one's super healthy, and then this one's okay, but the one next to it is yellow. On this side, we've got our green onions, just doing well, getting really big. I've harvested these a few times. They just keep growing. Basil, that's just huge. I've split one little baby basil plant into a few spots here, and it's just big, growing really well. Back here, we've got some Roma tomatoes. So a couple plants back there. I haven't gotten any tomatoes off of them yet. Here's our cucumber. And then let me show you this side. Other side of that cucumber there, we have been harvesting a few of these. And then we've got some super hot peppers here. So this guy is starting to make some peppers, and then a couple in the back there. Now these are supposed to actually be orange habanero plants. I bought these. So maybe I will have a shot this year at getting some orange habaneros. Now these little guys looked just terrible the last several weeks. They look like they're starting to do better now. There's a flower starting to form. So maybe this will have been a good decision buying these tiny little plants. And then there's my beans that I planted. They're getting pretty big. Here's a couple beefsteak tomatoes. We still need to tie these up. There's our sugar baby watermelon. There's 2 plants there growing up this trellis. And then we move into peppers. Most of these here on this side are bell peppers. And then we've got jalapenos there in the back. We've got our jalapeno peppers. And then we've got one more plant back there. I don't know if that's a cucumber or squash. We'll see. Can't remember what I planted. And then we've got more peppers here. You can see some are ready to be picked. So we've got more peppers. More peppers. Okay, you guys, here is our harvest for today. So everything's washed, it's all clean, and I've got it laying out on paper towels, and I'll put everything away. So it's still pretty early in the season. I'm gonna leave a link in the description box below to last weekend's harvest so you guys can compare week to week. And here are those mystery peppers I was showing you out in the garden where I planted orange habanero seeds. Or at least that's what I thought they were. That's what they said they were when I purchased them, and I got these. So if you guys know what these are, you think you know what they are, leave me a comment down below because I'm very curious to find out what they are. All right, thanks you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this tour this week of our garden. And if you're not already subscribed, please be sure to do so. We'll see you next week.